Dogwood Realty, yeah.
I like the logo.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thought long and hard about that.
You did a good job.
Yeah. There we go. We're supposed to be quiet.
So,
We
it's
never,
a function.
we never do it. He's talking to me.
Yeah. I'm a bad influence.
We
in a lot
never
of
do
regards.
it. See, he counts us in.
Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. An absolute pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network on a show that has agents, bankers, home inspectors, architects, lenders, all watching the program, along with the average Joes and the average Karens of the world. And we have a lot we want to talk about today. Not only are we going to talk about the nuances of today's real estate market, and boy, oh boy, is it dynamic. Had a fantastic conversation over near tennis courts, Rod, with Jim McVeigh about this real estate market and the importance of the fall and what's coming in the fall. We'll talk about that in a matter of moments. But we're going to first highlight an event that's cooking at Pro Renata for a fantastic cause. Those details to come. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera. Judah, if you can go to the studio camera and a 4-shot as I pass the baton to my good buddy Keith Smith. What a show you have lined up today.
I do. Like I said, they're rock stars. But what we're going to do, he used to have like a whole mullet and everything.
No, I thought Paul Stanley was coming in through the door.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can I do my intro now?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So, for those of you who don't know, when Greg and I, since you pushed already, I'm going to push.
Bert and Ernie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know you guys well. These guys are great guys.
Bert and Ernie, and we'll let you viewer decide who's Bert and who's Ernie. But since you already kicked in, Rod, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your firm, how's business doing, and then kick off what we're talking about here, and then we'll let Greg slide in.
Real excited. The last year and a half, about a year and a half ago, I went to more of a boutique type setting. I was with Remax for about 8 years, and it was great. And it had great partners over there and a great relationship. Before that, I was with Keith and Michael Guthrie at Roy Wheeler. I did the Roy Wheeler thing for 10 years, and it was amazing over there, amazing training, amazing people. But yeah, so we're about 10 people, about 5 full-time people and about 5 part-time. We have a little settlement company in the building I own right there in Crozet, downtown Crozet. But yeah, just went to more of the boutique type situation. I think that fits the Charlottesville area, and it's just it's going great. My wife Christy is involved.
Nice.
Yeah, so she does a lot of the back of the house stuff, and but we have a nice little firm, a nice little group. We don't really recruit heavy, but we do take on some, maybe add a person, 1 or 2 people a year if they're the right fit.
Let them know what it's called.
Dogwood Realty Group.
Yeah, love the logo.
Yes, so we worked long and hard on that name, and because you have to find a name that's not taken, first of all, which is not easy in this state. But we are Dogwood Realty, and I'm a big sponsor of UVA Sports as well. So we're on the scoreboard for the 7 home games. We're on 20 home games for baseball. So Dogwood is a big supporter of UVA Sports and also Western Athletics as well.
Pro Renata.
Well, we're getting to that. Pro Renata, yes, I sponsor that venue. We have a great band tonight. Just a plug before we have a Rush tribute band playing tonight. Ooh. And then that's tonight. And then next
here's
week.
a test. What's the drummer's name?
Neil Peart.
There you go. Well done.
Greg Slater. Nicely done.
Well
nice.
done.
Wow, that is
well
good.
done.
To tribute Rush, we've never had them. I want to disclose to you, we've never had this band. I hear they're good. They're out of the Pennsylvania, so they are a touring band. So we get some touring bands that come through.
How many people does that venue hold?
The venue holds comfortably about 350 to 400.
Really?
Yeah.
But they are talking about expanding Pro Renata to get it to where it's going to be more 600 to 800. So
that's a really cool thing to have a venue on that side of town. I don't think we should plug that a little bit more. We don't really talk that much about it because where is the venues that you can have these little small intimate things. So what was the brainchild behind
Well, it's kind of
it's called money.
It's yeah. So John Shabe's a dear friend of mine.
Dear friend of mine.
Okay.
Watches the program all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So John has a good vision there, and I'm here helping the the music scene. I'll introduce the bands and help recruit the bands. Brian Combs is the main social media guy there and the main guy who recruits bands. But I was the first to bring Zoso there, which was there a couple weeks. That's a
Led Zeppelin cover band.
Led Zeppelin. We've had them 6 years in a row. Greg Slater's been there a couple times. Yeah, a true tribute to Led Zeppelin. And,
You insinuating
Zoso is awesome.
Zoso is awesome. It's one of our biggest shows. So really excited. We're not just known as a tribute band place, even though people love the tribute bands. They do love it. But we do have a lot of singer-songwriters, local people like Camo and Whiskey, Coda Marie there, and Disco Risque, the Barons. So we do get a lot.
You had me
a lot
until
of-
that disco thing, so we're moving
Disco
over.
Risque is a great band.
It's
Great
a
local
great band.
band.
It's not 70s disco music, by the way.
Got it.
But anyway,
Yeah.
just to name some of the local music that we had to. We're not all about tributes, but
I
the tributes are
literally
very
grew up
popular.
in the neighborhood that Saturday Night Fever was shot. When I was going, they actually grew up in that neighborhood. So
So one more plug for next week on the 22nd, a week from tonight, we have a Pearl Jam tribute. We've never had them either. They're called Jeremy's 10.
Nice.
I got a big group coming in. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, is a huge Pearl Jam guy. He's seen him 40 times all over
too.
the world. The Pearl Jam. So I've
Play
never
on
had this.
Jeremy's Spoken.
Jeremy's, oh yeah.
so
They're
you're
little
a
10s.
concert promoter, huh?
I am a concert.
Don Kirshner,
So
right over here.
that's one of my passions. I mean, I love a little bit of golf and tennis and.
Ten's the
and
name
my
of the album.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, next Friday, a Pearl Jam tribute as well. But getting to our event at Affordable Housing, which is September 4th in Crozet at PRN. Doors open at 5 o'clock for kind of a happy hour. The music will come on at 6. And this is another local band out of Richmond. We get a lot of really great bands that come to PRN out of Richmond. They're called Gone Country, and they do a lot of fun covers, and also he's a singer-songwriter. The lead singer's name is Trace, so he may do a couple originals, but people love just the country classics, and he's Alan Jackson, Toby Keith, Garth Brooks, from the 90s, and he rolls into the Morgan Wallens and the Chris Stapletons and the Tyler Childers music as well. So he kind of plays that whole new and old, country crossover as well. So a really fun band, very talented. So we're glad to have him there. And this event, it's not just your fundraiser where you have a silent auction and there's all these breaks and it's kind of stale and boring. This is a concert. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's been great to kind of co-chair the concert committee with Greg Slater, keeping up with Greg. So you guys know his energy. We talk daily.
Speaking of energy, how about Rod Phillips with some energy? Let's get the co-chair here.
But my daughter's like,
Rod, we're done.
anyway, my daughter's asked me, "Is Greg Slater your
God.
new bestie?" I said, "Well, we do."
I
Greg
forgot you
Slater's
like
the
to
man.
talk. Rod, I literally forgot you like to talk. You're done. Greg.
Oh, come on. We want to get Greg Slater in,
I
though.
want to get Greg.
Well,
Apparently,
I'd like to take a step back though and
Tell
tell you
us why.
how we got here,
There you
why
go.
we're doing it, and that's because
Rod,
the association.
Our show.
It is.
Yeah, I kinda-
Rod, nice job, buddy.
The Association of
You
Realtors.
take a breather now, bud.
We ready?
Yeah.
The Association of Realtors has long been committed to trying to cause things to happen in the affordable housing space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the Great Recession, we had a down payment assistance fund we created to help police officers, firefighters, nurses, and teachers. And the Great Recession changed that. Coming out of the Great Recession, as we moved through and the economy was growing again, a conversation started about having our own foundation. And Anthony McGee was the president of CAR 5 or 6 years ago who got this passed. And 4 years ago, I got involved. I moved over from the CLT board to the foundation board.
Community
and
Land Trust Board.
The Community Land Trust Board. So we could help shine a light on organizations like the CLT and others in the community. Fast forward to today, we spent 3 years building a strategic plan, hiring an executive director. We have Dave Norris,
Dave
the
Norris.
former
We know
mayor,
Dave
as our
Norris well.
executive director. We have a strategic plan that involves causing funding, volunteer engagement, education and awareness, and advocacy, right? We came out recently with a position on what we think about Albemarle County having an affordable housing fund. And what we thought about that. We have partnered with CVille Tomorrow. There's actually, if you go to CVille Tomorrow's webpage, there is our first comprehensive housing resource guide there. Ooh. And it is a year was spent compiling every bit of information that could be found online about resources for everybody who wants to be in this conversation or needs help with housing. So that's all there. But this year was about figuring out what we were really going to do and how we were going to raise money. And I have to say, at the end of last year, before we had a plan and we started talking about fundraising, I had a conversation with Rod and Christy Phillips in their office about what the foundation was and what we wanted to be. And they responded immediately. They are passionate about affordable housing as well. They became our first major sponsor donor, corporate sponsor. That's why they're the presenting sponsor of the concert that's coming up. They've made the largest contribution to the foundation since its inception. And, talking about our friendship, we spent a lot of time talking about concerts. And if you recall, we used to throw concerts for affordable housing around here before the Great Recession, the Realtors. So the Realtors have a history of doing this. And I said, Rod, you're the perfect person to help us create our first fundraiser. And that's where the idea for this was born, just in a conversation about who was playing at Pro Renata this Friday. So they're our title sponsor. Since we set this up, we've had other sponsors sign up. We've got Close Your Title,
Nice.
Amy Hughes. We've got Guild Mortgage, Katie Shears, Atlantic Builders, Brian Roinstead, and Virginia Housing. Virginia Housing has been a big supporter of the foundation since its inception as well.
They step up in a big way across the board.
You want to mention our VIPs? Got to mention Chris.
Yeah, so as we achieved these sponsorships that we were super proud to achieve and super thankful for, what that means is every ticket we sell, 100% of the cost of that ticket goes to the bottom line for the foundation, right? The cost of the band, the cost of the included drinks and food are all paid for by the sponsors and then some. So if you buy a ticket, or if you buy a ticket for your friends or clients, this is not just a realtor event. We've had some feedback that people were confused that maybe this was just for realtors. It is not. We should point out that if you want to get tickets, the best place to go that I can tell you to go without a link or a QR code is actually carfoundation.org, CAAR foundation.org. And there's an events tab, and there's a place to get tickets right there. You can buy as many tickets as you want. You can make an additional donation.
There you
as
go.
well.
That's what we want to talk about.
We've had people who want to support us who can't make it that night. You can put in 0 tickets and make a donation at that site as well to support this event. And
So
people are
let's
doing that.
Bert and Ernie this a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Why is this so important, right? So just to set a frame to it, in the last 30 days in the car footprint, the median sales price, this is the full car footprint, all product types, so forth and so on, was $475,000. That was the median sales price
All-time
on
high,
it.
right?
So why is this so important?
Well, when we talk about affordable home ownership, we often put it in terms of median area income. And what we've worked with for years around here is targeting families that make 80% of the median area income or lower. That means you have to make enough, but not too much. 80% of the median area, and we used to talk about affordability in terms of what percentage of the median area price could the 80% median area home buyer buy? Well, it's not $475, and I know you've talked about it on the show. It's
$275.
It's under $300.
It's $275.
It's $275, and one of the reasons,
So that's $200,000 shortfall. Just my Marine Corps math.
I'm not sure a lot of people understand how expensive it is to actually create
And that's what I
affordable
need you to
housing.
talk about.
And so my history with the CLT taught me that is one of the best models available to help us create affordable housing, because it not just helps the first family, it helps all the families. So when we got to this permanent affordability concept, that's when things really started changing, because it becomes more politically palatable and more investable to know that we're creating something that's going to help people for generations to come. And so it was also a project that we were working on together between the foundation, the Piedmont Community Land Trust, and Greenwood Homes at Victorian Heights. And we were looking at that math and talking about the fact that your organization actually pays the closing costs for these buyers.
So if the median sales price is $475, $275 is what the 80% AMI can buy. That's a $200,000 shortfall. This is why this event is so important, right? Where do we come up with that money? Plus, you got to add closing costs on top of it. So
That's
that
right.
number's 200 plus.
There's a lot of subsidy between the developer and the builder and the CLT to get the price to $275, and then there's all the other costs involved. And so it's an easy thing for us to latch on to, I think, as realtors. We intend to donate a significant portion of what we raise to the Community Land Trust, specifically so you can pay the closing costs of the buyers at the Victorian Heights project. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And we can talk about as much as you want right now, but that's really the impetus
Well,
for
I
all of
wanted you to
this.
frame why this event's so important, right? And we'll talk
Well-
real estate and crystal ball stuff later on. in
Funding
this
of
show.
affordable housing is the biggest challenge, right? We have to help people understand how much it really costs to solve this problem. And we all need to, we have a saying at the foundation, we can all be a part of the affordable housing solution, and together we can do more. And that just means even a $50 ticket is helpful. And that's what it costs to go to our event on September 4th.
So the median family income, according to HUD, is $125,800. So 80% of that number is over 100 grand. I mean, that really puts it in perspective how costly it is to live here. Which I really respect the mission you guys are doing here. It's fantastic, Rob.
Thank you.
Chime in, Rod. Add a little bit to that.
Well, no, and it just, the cause that, when Chrissy and I found out this was available to be part of this, it makes sense because I try to, fulfill dreams every day. We're all in different brokerage here. I've been in the real estate business, licensed in Florida, licensed here, and we try to, provide great homes for people. And the sad thing, a lot of our first responders, police officers, firemen can't afford to live in Charlottesville. So to bring in a $400,000 townhouse for $265 to $275, I've heard that range is really amazing, and it just feels so good to be part of it and to give back to the community, especially something that is in line with what I do for a living every day. So just super excited to be involved with this, and with Keith and Greg and the rest of our board. So yeah, I just please give, even if you can't make the event. If you can donate $20, $100, $1,000, whatever you can do, because I have reached out to a lot of people who can't make that event for conflicts, but they are going to donate because they just are really backing this cause. So.
I like to point out in this situation to people that maybe are a little bit newer to the community land trust conversation, when we raise this money and it goes to pay the closing costs for that buyer, it's not just helping that buyer, because
That's important to get
that
out.
sale of that property that otherwise would not have happened without the CLT in Greenwood and Riverbend is permanently affordable. So that contribution for helping that first buyer is actually creating a permanently affordable home in our market.
So I want to put a little further context to this. As you guys were talking, I went back and dug up some old data. 2019, the median sales price was $335. The area median income was less, right? But not that much less in 2019. So at that time, remember when we did the houses on Nassau, I believe it was $325 was the cap at that point. So we're really, the amount of money that's required to make this happen since 2019 to now, obviously because the market went up, is more. And that's why this event is so important to make up that delta, because otherwise we're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, so affordability is at its worst in my career, and it continues to get worse. And what I like about the CLT model is, you like to use the comparison for the structure of the transaction to a condo sale, but I like to think of it as an equity building bicycle in a rideshare program, right? You get the bike, you get to pedal it, and you get to build equity. And when you're done riding it, somebody else gets to ride it and pedal it and build equity.
I use the condo explanation particularly to real estate agents because
Because
for them
of the transaction, right?
understand.
They're not buying the land and the home; they're just buying the home, and that's at the heart of it. But at the other thing it does, though, when we talk about affordability, the part we don't talk about as much is how expensive it is to rent here. So if you're living here and you have your job and you're renting, and your monthly cash flow is stretched to the point that you can't save, and you can't get to the point where you have the money to move into the home ownership space, right? As we all know that the median area income of a first-time home buyer is 38 years old now in this country, which is a shocking statistic.
Oldest it's ever been.
And it jumped in 1 year substantially.
It's a problem. So to create an opportunity where there's housing that someone can buy with very little, if nothing, out of pocket, due to, if you haven't explored the resources of Virginia housing, or if you're helping someone in the affordable space that isn't a lender that understands the resources of Virginia housing, you're missing out, because they have layers and layers of ways to help these people achieve home ownership.
How many years you been in the business?
29.
About 25.
I've been in since '87, so it's 30-something years.
38 years.
Thank you. 38
Yeah.
years.
A lot of comments coming in.
Before we do that, because I'm going to ask a question Jerry always asks me. Is this the worst market? Tell me about this market in the lens of almost 30 to 40 years of real estate.
Well, I think that, a lot of people were spoiled after COVID and the interest rates. People were even refining at 2.75, which is insane. And a lot of people have mortgages right now at 3%, but they can't afford to buy something else. It's not only the price, but it's that they're going to have to get a 7% mortgage or 6.5%. But we did have last week, I think it was down to 6.5. So
Well, it's the lowest it's been.
Lowest it's been in
like
2025.
Yeah, I believe so.
So this year. So that is a sign. Hopefully, we will have the Fed will bump it down again. But yeah. So I'm finding that it's correcting a bit, which it needed to. I'm not seeing where there's 9 or 10 offers on stuff. If it's something super hot downtown in Belmont or Fry Springs, there might be 2 or 3 offers. But people are not having to waive home inspections, which is insane to be a buyer's agent and you have to waive a home inspection.
That's not good for anybody.
It's not good for anybody. So I think there's some goodness to the correction, but the inventory is a little strange. But the problem is some of our sellers are still stubborn, and they want those prices from
COVID prices.
And I'm like, it's not there. So it's just. So there's that frustration as well, where even putting in bids, the seller and the buyer are kind of butting heads, and they can hold out. So the crazy thing about Charlottesville, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, is still 25% of the deals are cash. Is that?
It's higher than that.
Is it higher?
Yeah, it's about a third.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is a little absurd. And I'm not saying it's a misleading step, but sometimes I think that people will offer cash and still end up getting some type of loan.
Yeah.
But to be competitive,
Yeah.
they'll offer
That's
cash.
what's happening.
It's a sales. It's a contract.
It is. So those
strategic.
numbers could be a little skewed because of that and how the contract was written. But yeah, which is pretty absurd too.
So to put up context to that, you can put a cash contract in. The contract allows you to change it as long as you don't change the basic terms of the contract.
as long as
And
you
have
close on time.
And if you close on time and so
Right.
forth and so on.
Doesn't, yes. So I am seeing a correction, and just things are sitting out there a little bit longer, which is, I wouldn't call it a buyer's market, but we're some type of
more balanced.
a little bit of a hybrid market. It's a little more balanced,
Yeah.
yes. So I'm seeing more of a balanced market. My small firm is off to a pretty good start for 2025. I got 4 or 5 agents that are doing fine. And I'm finding some of the newer agents that don't have a database like Greg Slater or Keith Smith are struggling a little bit, and it's hard for them to find that lead.
Comments coming
And
in
the
quickly. Michael Guthrie watching the program. He says it was much worse in the market compared to now in the early 80s. And he said in 1983, the interest rate around here was 18%.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
And homes taking a year to sell.
He's going way back.
Okay, he is going way back. Guthrie also says one of our agents has one of the properties you guys were describing with the CLT under contract.
Yes.
His client would never have been able to purchase a home like this without the effort of the CLT. Brian Combs and the Pro Renata team are watching the program. They give flying chest bumps and props to Rod Phillips over here. They say Rod is the man. He's been very supportive of music at Pro Renata and Brew Pub and Music Hall since day one. We've lined up Gone Country for this event. It's going to be a great night for a really, really great cause. Viewers and listeners want us to talk about the current market. And from my count, you have agents from 7 different firms watching the show right now. So did you cringe slightly with the balanced market
Yes.
description? You did.
I
Okay.
did.
Why?
Well, I don't know that I try to put a broad descriptor on the market like that. You know, you used the word worse. And to follow up on what Michael said, the worst for me was the years we were trying to figure out how to do business with the banks when all hell was breaking loose. And so those are some very,
We
very...
referred to that as the time of great unpleasantness.
I know you do, and I repeat you on that one. It was very unpleasant, and that was
Very
the
interesting.
worst. You know, this is the way I describe the market right now. You know, after 4 years of hyper appreciation, 40% over 4 years, whatever segment of the market you're looking in, it's definitely started to slow down. But when the market first starts changing, it's very hard to measure and figure out what's going on. And so the way I do it is I've been following very closely, even on a daily basis, for Albemarle County, what's happening with the pace of homes coming to the market on the resale side, how fast they're selling, and what's that doing to the inventory level. Because in the first quarter of this year, we saw the inventory double. over what it had been for the last couple of years. But
So was that number Q1 2025 versus Q1 2024?
the listings, basically what happened is, you can go back 4 years. We
Okay.
hit a peak inventory for like a 5-year period in the beginning of this year, and that was because the pace of people bringing their home to the market. I almost describe it like people really felt the end was coming, and if it was time to sell their home and get top dollar, that was, some people timed the market with their housing decisions.
You're starting to see in the last couple of weeks, because I tracked a 7-day cycle pretty closely, we're starting to see back to a little less homes coming on the market, a little more going into pending, which was not the case for quite a while.
It is slowed to almost the same pace as last summer for the homes
Yeah.
coming on the market. But if you look at the year to date, we've listed more homes in Albemarle County, but we've sold less homes than we did last year. Everybody said when we have more inventory, we'll have more sales. But if you drill down in that, we've actually are slightly up on
I
resale
think that's
contracts.
price, though.
Well,
It-
that's a seller not in tune with market dynamics, right?
Well, let me finish my thought there, and I'll get to the answer to your question. If we're listing more resales and we only increase the resales selling a little bit, where did the rest of the contracts go? The builders are 40% behind last year's sales pace in Albemarle County right now. And at some point, we'll talk about what's happening
We
in
know where
Fluvanna
they're
and
going.
Green. They're going to Creekside and Green.
Yes,
They're up hundreds of percents in
I
sales.
had a very I meet with the presidents of certain companies out that way. It's unbelievable the tempo of pace up over there.
And what's happened is one of those two builders is not even getting all their sales to the MLS, so we don't even know how good it is.
100%. And
But-
we had a conversation about that yesterday.
So when you get back to what this market is really like, so the inventory peaked a couple of months ago and it's coming back down. It's still historically low. So the reason so in the last 60 days, we've listed and sold about the same number of homes, but the inventory is coming down. And what's very hard to track, and you can only do it on a daily basis, is delistings. The pace of sellers leaving the market after 45 to 60 days after a price reduction and not selling their home is higher than I've ever seen it. This month, it's almost one per day this month.
And why is that?
It's because they had
Disillusioned sellers.
That's right. They had bad expectations out of the gate,
Right.
and they when they realized they couldn't get what they were going to get, and they weren't going to get multiple offers.
Disillusioned sellers. They
That's
thought
right.
it was a COVID market. They think it's the COVID market.
There's some of that.
And so what it takes is a long time to figure out what's really going on, is because we actually have to get the disillusioned sellers out of the market. So
Where is our responsibility as professionals in that conversation?
well,
Not take overpriced listings.
You'll never convince agents not to
Coach 'em
take
up.
over price
Right.
listings, but it's
gotta
very
coach your
difficult.
sellers.
It's very difficult to
I think
actually
it's a lack of
understand.
professionalism. but-
There is a lack of professionalism in our industry. We can talk about that too. But when the market's turning, look, some of us figured out in April or May it was turning, but the advice didn't change. So if you're comping to sales from this March and April, you're probably a little bit behind.
Yeah.
I pulled 2 comps this morning. So what I look for in the market to figure out what is really happening to the appreciation rate is if you can find homes that were built in the last 5 years that are already being resold. I found 2 this morning, and both of them were in the 1 to 3% appreciation rate since 22 or 23 based on the price they just got.
Wow.
I have seen sales happen this year where they did not cover their cost of sale and the amount of appreciation over the time they owned it.
And people can go back and look at my post on this. Pricing it right matters more than anything right now, and I'll let Rod chime in on that. But if you don't price your home right, you're leaving money on the table.
It is, and there's I try to train my agents on that too. Just don't take an overpriced listing. It's not good for anybody.
not good for
It's not
anybody.
good for the market.
It's not good for the profession.
And at the end, everyone's frustrated. They're pointing fingers. Why didn't you sell it? Well, it's overpriced. Why didn't you tell me at the beginning? Well, I tried.
And those
you
who
didn't
crunch
listen.
data,
So-
it kind of skews that a little bit.
Well, the only caveat I'd put to that is sometimes it's hard to know if it's overpriced. Some of these homes are priced fairly well based on recent information, and the market is
Well, it's
changing.
much more than numbers, right? It's
Yes.
the features and the condition.
You have
which
to understand
impacts.
demand, right? You have to understand demand for what that
And I think
listing is.
agents they get really excited about listings. You want to be that listing agent, but really you don't have the experience to be that listing agent because you're in your first 4 or 5 years, or maybe even your first 2 years. So you need to work with more buyers.
I think buyers agents need to start brushing up their buyer skills, because that's where I think 2026 is going. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's just, it's the fact that I think you're excited about getting a listing and you're willing to, some agents are willing to take it on at whatever price. It just doesn't end well.
Year to date, if you reduced, I looked at the data, if you reduced your pricing, right, this is just this year, you're going to end up selling your home somewhere around 7.5% less than what you started with. That's just what the data shows. That's not getting, and it's going to cost you roughly 40 grand on a median number. That's what the cost is by not doing this right. In my opinion, I've been saying this for a while, you know, the market is all about micro markets matter. You know, one house from across the street can be totally different.
You know the market's changing when you have to start looking at different data points to figure out what's going on in your
100%.
market. And right now we're talking about the inventory and percentage that have had a price drop or 2 price drops. And some of these things you can't figure out with a report in the MLS. And honestly, you can't put it into AI and have you tell you. You just have to really watch the market closely and pay attention to what's going on to figure it out.
Here's an interesting dynamic that I'm following closely. And this isn't about politics, but if Trump is able to pressure the Fed chair to cut rates, and the expectation is we're going to have multiple rate cuts already this year, what is that going to do to the market? If we start seeing interest rates fall a point or more, are we going to have a bonanza? Are we going to see, I'll follow it up with this, throw it to you, Greg. Will we see the homeowners that have COVID rates of 4 and under tap into hundreds of thousands of equity and say, all right, I will take a 5-handle or a 6-handle rate because I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the sidelines here?
Anybody who makes that prediction is, I wouldn't make that prediction because it's too complicated. We had interest rates better than this during the last 3 or 4 years. And what happens is, even if you can sell your home and cash out because there are more buyers out there, you've got to go buy something that the price went up on as well. So the calculus so that's when we get back to how do you really unwind a market, and it's one buyer and seller at a time, because they all have their own set of circumstances motivating them. It's not like hitting a button and selling a stock. So interest rates coming down, I think most people would like to see them come down a little bit. It will help the affordability problem. But if we do something that increases the appreciation rate again, it will just create some of the problems we've already been dealing with.
Curious of Rod's take on that. Gary Palmer, welcome to the broadcast. Jump in with comments. Gary, if you have any. You got Jackie Deshano watching the show. I'm seeing Nest, your Dogwood team, the Yes team, Real Estate 3, Keller Williams, Avenue, Town. I'm seeing mortgage brokers all over the place here. If rates drop a point or change and more, what happens to this market, Rod Phillips?
I think getting into the 5s by the end of the year will help a little bit, but I don't see it getting into the 4s. I see a big change if it does get into the 4s again, and people will take that money that they have on the sidelines. But yeah, I'll see an increase. I think a 10% increase would be a forecast for me if it gets into the low 5s by the end of the year.
You're talking about the 30-year mortgage we're talking
30-year mortgage, yes, on that. So I think people are waiting out the interest rates a little bit, but we were spoiled at 3, and it's not going to get back to 3.
Not going to get to that, no.
It's not. I don't know if it's going to get back to there ever, but could be depressing. But that's why people are holding on to those.
It shouldn't go down to 3. That's not healthy.
It's not
That
healthy.
wasn't good.
We talked about this when that happened, that this was going to be bad for our market and bad for the housing market
for a long term.
We did a decade at 4 or less.
And it is going to be a long-term thing. But that said, people buy and sell of the 5Ds, right? You know, it's diamonds, diapers, divorce, downsizing, and death, right? That's what people...
It's real life stuff.
That's real life stuff. That's how people buy and sell. The people that maybe put a house on the market overpriced really aren't within any of those 5 things, and they test the market and see what happens, and then they pull it back
living
off.
at over 10% appreciation for 3 or 4 years like we did, in some cases more.
That's the second thing that wasn't good for the market.
And that was driven by low interest rates and lack of demand to sell or lack of inventory. So I think about it, we had a lot of conversation around the overall economy for years after the pandemic, if we were going to have a soft landing or not. So right now what we're seeing is the appreciation rate has slowed. And it's hard to do that math in the absence of enough comps to make it clear to everybody. So
But
I don't
it's
throw
slowed to something that is historically normal.
That's right.
But it's
That's what you know.
slowed and still appreciating based on a compound environment over the last 4 years of 40% appreciation.
So
So
I-
any appreciation is still costly.
So I always go back and look what I'm looking at now versus 19. 19 was like the real, in my opinion, normal real estate year as far as
He's going to finish the
appreciation.
thought. Sorry, Greg. Yeah.
Well, slowing happens. You say it's slow. It's
a correction.
slowing. We don't know how far down it's going to go. And then when we cross the line to depreciating home values, how do you even measure that? You can only measure it against
Over time.
year over year. So a lot of people have so much appreciation, it's not going to feel like that to them. I mean, the Great Recession was the example. We ripped the Band-Aid off and lost 20% of the value of our housing inventory. I don't think that's going to happen.
So
I'm not
back on
predicting.
this 30-year interest rate, you just said appreciation. People will just take a $50,000 haircut, right? But they're still making $500,000.
So now it's down to that tolerance for what equity you think you earned and how much of it
Yep.
you're willing to give back. And that's why sellers are leaving the market
and the flip,
without selling.
And the flip side is what am I buying, right?
And where am I going?
Where am
So
I
it's
going?
going to, there is no, I've never thought of interest rates lowering being as the magic bullet that's going to solve all our problems, because it's not. It's going to be a journey from
Yeah,
here.
and I think just to add to the appreciation that the appreciation was so great for a while that it had to correct. It had to stop. You can't just keep going up and up and up. And I'm licensed also in Florida, and this happened in Sarasota, Siesta Key, where it just was nuts. The one condo in 2012 was, $550, and 6 months later, that same condo was $630, and it just kept going. It's like, when's it going to stop? It has to correct. So, and that's what's going on right now, a correction.
So
we
it's
kinda have-
important to call it a correction, not a time
Yes.
time of great unpleasantness.
And I just say, people say, is it still great to invest in Charlottesville and Crozet? Yes.
Absolutely.
We're still steady. We're just not going like this anymore.
Well,
Well, especially with Walden Cooper saying the population is going to increase from 117,000 to 150,000 by 2050.
And where they
That's an
gonna live?
insane stat right there.
well,
look,
that's
we-
only going to make this event more important, right? Because that delta between the AMI and what people
Yes.
Well,
can
hopefully the
afford.
Carr Foundation will play a role in advocacy at some point. If we can get the voice of all the realtors together and the right people listening to it with everybody else, we have to figure out how to build more houses. And so let's talk, because you know how you're really going to figure out what's happening first? It's always the leading indicator.
The
The
builders.
businessmen make decisions when
Builders.
they have to. I always tell my clients,
Yeah.
you have one home to sell. You're competing with someone that has 10 to sell this month. They are going to lead the market, right? And they start with incentives, and then they get the price reductions, and they stop building specs when things get really bad. So we're on the builders are getting more negotiable. They are including more and more incentives. But what's really
But it
happening?
depends on the where, Greg, because I can tell you some of the Greene County and Fluvanna and these two projects out there.
I'll
what
give
they're-
you the stats on that if you want to hear them.
I
They're
got-
shocking.
I'm sure you do. But what
I know. I love
but
the
what
stats.
they're doing
Hard to keep up.
is they're throttling back their sales because they don't want to oversell their inventory. And I'll let you.
That's
I'll
the
let you
thing.
get into
Well, in Albemarle County, I told
Which
you
is-
new
which is a
construction
weird-
sales are off 40% this year.
that. I
Right
got
now,
nothing to build.
right. Well, I would think it's an affordability issue. When you look at the prices at North Point and Old Trail and some of these newer communities.
They're up against a cap on inventory, on lot inventory. They're not.
I want to hear this. If Greg Slater says volume with new construction year over year is down 40%.
In Albemarle
And
County.
Albemarle County. You're
Right
explaining
now,
why.
this halfway into August, zero sales for the builders, reported to the MLS. There's been two. One of them was Victorian Heights.
Yeah,
CLT
which is us.
sale,
Which is us.
right? And the other shouldn't be in the MLS. It was someone hired a custom builder to build on their private land, and the realtor.
So
put
talk
it
about
in.
where they're going.
They're going to Greene County, and they're going to Fluvanna County, but mostly Greene County right now. So what you've got there is. Where is my stat there? The percentage of sales in Greene County, new construction over overall sales, is almost up to 50%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
50% of the sales in Greene County. And what's happening is those sales are actually lowering the median area income, the median price points that are being
Because
achieved
they're
now.
offering at the sweet spot.
Stanley Martin and Ryan Homes in Greene County are building affordable housing.
And the same thing in Colonial
Colonial Circle
Circle.
at Fluvanna.
So I can talk about Colonial Circle. They have 200 single-family attached and detached units. I was on a call yesterday with them. They will, by the middle of next year, be 100% sold and out of that project, years ahead of schedule, right? And it's because it's a price point. You're also going to see Greene County, right? Greene County, one of the current board members on Greene County said there was never going to be any more than 48 or 52 new construction units built a year in Greene County. Well, they're way over that, and then they're at the middle of this year and just started rocking and rolling. They're going to put out about 250 units a year.
They have
for many,
1,200 lots.
many years going forward.
That's right.
Comments coming in quickly. I'll get to.
But the point, Jerry, is we got to follow the new construction.
Yeah.
We got to follow the bleeding edge of who's trying to sell the most homes.
This is a great one from Vanessa Parkhill. This is something my wife and I are following closely. And Vanessa's in Earlysville. She's a savvy businesswoman, numbers person. What about the adjustment of the way capital gains is calculated? There's a discussion now that the capital gains cap could be escalated. Might longtime owners or people who have inherited property be more willing to sell in that scenario? I'll put that in perspective, throw it to you guys. A married couple, the first $500,000 in gains sheltered from tax exposure. We did this in Glenmore. We're going to do this again in Ivy here. The federal government is talking about raising that $500,000 for a married couple as high as maybe $750,000, where that first $750,000 in net proceeds would be sheltered from tax exposure. Does that have an impact on things?
It's not any conversation that I've had with anybody yet that's really thinking about that at all. But are you letting people keep more of their equity but on your primary residence, I haven't helped a lot of people, at least they haven't told me that they had so much equity they were paying capital gains on their
So it's only
primary.
under the two-year window, right? So once you
No, it's in after the 2-year window,
Yeah.
selling it for more than you're allowed to
That's
deduct
correct.
is what he's
Yeah.
talking about. No, I don't think so. You know what I think would help? I think we have a lot of people out there that own investment property that would like to sell it that don't want to pay capital gains. And if we came up with a program for people that had owned a home for more than 10, 15 or whatever it is and figured out a way to lower the capital gains on investors who are done being investors, that you would get more inventory.
And then the second,
Well, yeah, let's Rod jump in.
Well, no, I haven't seen it to be much of an issue. As I think if you're in your home past 2 years, you can keep up to $500,000. It's rarely an issue that someone has more than that need of having more than 500. I think raising it to 750 would be great, and I do, but I haven't really, like Greg
I don't think
said.
it's, I don't think it's
Kind of been a
solving any
non-issue.
problems.
Okay, the clients you're dealing with are not sitting on equity larger than $500K?
Well, no, I mean, some are, but they're just sitting on it. I just haven't had the situation where they have $1 million in equity, but they have to
why
pay.
this is important is what Greg was talking about, the appreciation thing. And that's what the government's trying to do. That 500,000 was based on an appreciating rate from a long time ago, and they're trying to
If we
offset
don't
that.
want people to pay taxes on their capital gains of their primary residence, they should raise it, right? Because they are achieving more equity in that regard. But it's not that it's not happening, it's that these sellers aren't talking about it, at least not with me.
Okay. Comments coming in. This is an interesting comment here. The panel is saying that price reductions are happening at a quick clip and that homes are being removed off the market at a quick clip, yet the homes continue to increase in value. Why is that?
Well, I think it's frustrated sellers that are not being patient with the market, and they're deciding that I don't have to sell today, so I'm going to kind of, this little bit of slower period that we're having, I'm going to wait it out. And that's kind of the uneducated seller, or the seller who's just stubborn, who doesn't want to go with what's happening out there, or they're just not that motivated to sell.
And
so,
you maybe have an agent on the other side that's not educating them.
right, and the agent
There's
possibly
a
isn't.
variety of answers to that. One is what Keith just said. Some people are overpaying for houses right now and don't realize it. But the other is it takes a long time to unwind what's happening. And so, like I said, we're slowing it. And there's still, in many segments of the market, enough demand to meet the supply.
So-
and highlight those segments. We know the answer, but for the
we could
viewers
go
of
out to
this-
Crozet and talk about 4 and 5 bedroom homes under $1 million. I mean, I just saw a FSBO, never hit the MLS. They didn't hire a realtor
For sale by owner.
for $1.2 million in Westlake that sold. Right? That's $1.2 million for a home that 6 or 7 years ago was $600,000, $700,000. So there are places, that's when I say you
There's
have
some exceptions.
to understand value, you have to understand demand. When I sit down with a client that's selling their houses, I immediately do an analysis of who their buyer is and how many of them are in the market that can afford their home. The boomers are still driving the market in many segments. That the folks that the folks that are selling their homes with all this equity that now may risk them being capital gains tax are coming here and it's fine. It doesn't matter what the prices are. They're buying their last home and they don't care.
So I'm going to try to answer that question a little bit different. Can you put that slide up, please? If you don't mind? Thank you. So, year to date, single-family detached only. I took out new construction because to the conversation right now, I think that skews the numbers a little bit. There was, and the reason I'm using single-family detached existing, it makes all counties equal, right? It doesn't make Albemarle County because it's got a lot of condo sales and so forth and so on. There's 1,000 homes that's sold. If you priced your home correctly going in, 74% of those homes sold in a medium days of 6 days on market. And 28% of the total 1,000 homes got over $20,000 for the property. So if you price it right, in the right condition, right location, right features, and all that stuff, you are going to be selling your house for over what you're listing for it at a 28% chance, and you're going to get about 3 to 4% more for the house. If you don't, you're going to sit on the market for about 60 days. You're going to take an 8% haircut.
It's interesting, though, what Greg is highlighting, though, is how many of these sellers are actually legitimate about selling their home or rather are pursuing a number.
Well,
like a pot at the end of the rainbow number.
And we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Because what happens is when the home comes off the market, one of three things can happen. They can rent it, they can stay in it, or they can wait till the spring and try again.
Right.
So according to NAR, the 5Ds is roughly 80% of the sales. So about 20% is what we're talking about. And they're just testing the market.
Because when we do it, and no pressure on you guys, we're going to be chasing a number. And if it doesn't go, then we're pulling it off.
Yeah. And that's
So we're one of those people. Just to let you know.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay. I mean, it's not going to be about anything else besides chasing a number.
this your
Because
listing agent right
we're
here?
comfortable where we're at. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be.
But I don't find that most people are if they're on the
know
buyer
each
side,
other.
are chasing a number. They're trying to make a huge long-term decision for their family and where they want to live because of a change in employment or the
Right, that's not us. We don't have to do it.
5Ds.
Yeah.
But the seller conversation's different, you know?
Right, 100%. Comments continue to come in. This one, why don't we start with Rod on this? Can the panel highlight the pockets that are still hot and which pockets have cooled locally? And then I'll go to Jamie Turner, Mayor of Gordonsville on YouTube next. But first, hot pockets and cool pockets.
Well, I think there's some really interesting properties in Crozet in certain neighborhoods, just like that sale that went for 1.2 million.
Westlake.
And so there's some really neat, but we have these mountain views. So many properties have either a water feature or a mountain view. I think unique properties like that will still hold their weight and hold their value. So I just think, but those are the kind of the hot markets, the unique properties in these really special areas. I think Ivy is still a very steady where you live, Jerry. I still think Crozet. But right now, I think I've had a couple recent sales in Waynesboro. My team has as well, and I think Waynesboro is becoming kind of the more Crozet moving out towards Waynesboro, and you can get a lot more for your money in Waynesboro. So I feel that the Waynesboro market right now is pretty steady.
Particularly with gas dropping a little
And
bit.
especially with Northrop Grumman, about 100 new jobs out there at 6 figures with that new factory they're doing. Greg, your thoughts on that one?
Well, there's so many layers to it. You know, closest to me out in Crozet, single-family detached homes on a half acre or more are in demand if they're priced correctly, and they're always going to be because they're not making any more half acre lots in Albemarle County. So you got the school systems, you got the beauty of that side of the county, and you've got family homes. One of the areas that you have to watch seasonally is the townhome market because it is a spring market, and the best time to buy if you're trying to be aggressive on prices later in the year. But what are we building more of now?
Townhomes.
Attached versus
Lots of townhomes.
detached. So the supply has slowly been shifting for the last decade.
That's back to watching the builders, right?
Right, and so when there are enough homes to satisfy demand, it slows appreciation and eventually stops price appreciation. We're not doing that in the detached segment of the market. It's happened twice in my career. This is the way I'll explain it. When you have a fever pitch of buying that occurred for the last 4 years, like you did from 2004 to 2007, we talk about location, location, location. in a balanced market, you have A, B, C, and D locations. In a fever pitch market, it goes to A and B. The buyers scrutinize these things less, and their criteria lowers, and they become hyper focused on getting a house. So we just came out of a period where there were only A and B locations, and everything was okay. We are back to. I'm working with people who are choosing among communities within Crozet instead of trying to get into Crozet. They're choosing among this street versus that street, and they have time. And what's really happening to our market that's slowing things down, we haven't talked about, is we beat the crap out of buyers for 4 years and didn't give them any time to make thoughtful decisions. I'm helping people see homes more than once before they make an offer again.
Isn't that awesome?
I'm watching people wait and not make a decision because they have time and they have time on their side. And so
And you're counseling them.
and we're helping them realize they don't have to rush in and they can make a more balanced decision.
I love this market because this is when the pros show up, right? And, this is, you've got to know how to do the business of being a real estate professional. Just to answer the where question a little bit, I actually this morning ran this data of the 1,000 sales. This is only single-family detached, right? The most popular subdivision is Lake Monticello at 115 of those 1,000 sales. And why is that?
Because of price.
Price.
Yeah, affordability is winning right now. The other segment of the market that's untouchable now, it used to be, I would say, over $1 million, but now it's like over $2 million.
Yeah.
That stuff still sells.
Yeah. Is
Well, that's
$2 million the new luxury? It used to be $1 million's the new $1 million and up. Is it now $2 million and up?
You could say that, sure.
You can argue that for sure.
I mean,
'Cause there's a lot of $1 million to $2 million that are like, this needs renovation and work.
Right.
I've watched new townhomes go from the 300s, 400s to 500s, and now in some cases over 600 for a townhome. And yes, these single-family homes, oftentimes not even in a basement in new construction world, are $900 or $1 million.
Yeah.
And for you're almost disadvantaged in some cases, Keith, to be in the business this long because you know the past, and so you get shocked a little easier about what the value of things are.
This is real estate investor Jamie Turner. Can they talk about what they are seeing with concessions? I know a couple that recently bought that had a tremendous amount of money off the price and closing costs, paint budget included. And he also says, we are, and his team, we aren't really experiencing any true price discovery with these listings. People don't have to sell. They could just tap into their equity if they need to or rent it out, which is kind of the point that Greg was
we
making.
are getting to price discovery, but it's very hard to find. And that's why the best example I can give you is new construction built in the last 5 years, right? We know it's a little Case-Shiller. We know what it costs new. Yeah. I call it a low mileage trade-in, right? In good condition. And so when you can compare that and go, okay, those folks made 8% over the last 4 years, well, you know what the appreciation rate was now. It was probably higher and decreased greatly and averaged out to 2% a year.
You want to touch? That's great stuff from Slater.
I'm going to let you talk because I'm going to actually do a search and find out what the seller concessions were.
Well, I'll say one thing to that question, too. I often advise my clients you don't just have to find the right home, you have to find the right seller.
Right. And Case-Shiller is what? The benchmark of average single-family home prices in the U.S.?
Over time.
Over time, yeah. So that's the reference you made.
Yes.
Yeah, so seller concessions, I mean, I think it's just a case by case, how motivated that seller is.
Rob, can I stop you? Why don't you explain what they are real quick for the folks who may not know what seller concessions are?
Well, just even you're discounting the house, or you have an overpriced listing, then the seller going in knows that I'm going to negotiate. But sometimes you'll see that seller who's just stubborn, and I got it listed at $950 and I want $950. Sometimes they're willing to concede on price. Sometimes they're willing to concede on home inspection repairs, or what we call our HERCA, home inspection removal contingency addendum.
Points.
And our points for mortgage. So concessions kind of line up there, but it's a case by case basis.
So I can tell you the only seller concessions that we're dealing with, that we're seeing in our shop, is what we're doing with the land trust, which is seller concession, where seller is conceding to pay the buyer's closing costs. Other than that, I'm not seeing any.
I did a townhome for a VA, but they wanted to roll in there. But they came in above ask to get their money. It netted below ask, but they rolled in all those costs.
You're not seeing inspection concessions now?
What do you mean?
Like, the seller willing to move on price based on inspection?
Well, we're back to where there's a normal inspection period and people are getting a list of repairs or a concession. Sure.
Okay.
And that's one thing I like about this market, what you talked about, that it's not that competitive where people can get home inspections. And you feel really bad as a buyer's agent again, and your buyer, especially if a first-time buyer, and they're buying a 1950 house in Belmont, and they're not doing a home inspection.
Yeah, it's bananas.
Because it's so competitive, it's nerve-wracking. So we are back to doing home inspections, people negotiating those repairs.
Well, back to this is when the pros show up and the term negotiating, right? People just think we negotiate price. We don't. That laundry list is very long,
very long.
of what we actually negotiate. And sometimes we're doing it right up to the closing.
Layers of negotiation.
Layers of
We
negotiation.
got 4 minutes left because this man's about to win a match, 6-0, 6-0, Rod Phillips, and I truly believe that's going to happen. Why don't we take the last 4 minutes to highlight the event again?
Great.
We should do that.
Thank you.
Again, it's September 4th. It's Thursday. It's open. Come with a realtor or just come. It's a $50 ticket. It all goes to the cause. Affordable housing. Greg's done a great job, and Keith and the whole committee. Our sponsors. Gone Country, a wonderful band. It's going to be a fun night. It's going to be not one of these boring fundraiser type events. This is a concert. We're there to have fun, have a couple beers, some good food, in a great venue in Pro Renata. Thank you, John Shabe again.
He's watching.
And John and the team, Lindsay and Nora. Nora's the event coordinator. Lindsay is the general manager who's been wonderful to that venue. Dino's doing the food. And thank you, Brian Combs, for all that you do. And anyways, September 4th. At Pro Renata in Crozet at 5 p.m. And the music will start at 6. Please donate if you can't come. It's a great cause, and I'm happy to be involved with the team.
I will say this about John and his team. When we had this idea and went to him, it was a yes without a blink. And they've been super supportive. And that's why we put first annual on it. We want to do something that people don't want to miss each year. Like Rod said, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to have some beverages and some food, and we're going to get down to playing music. It's not a lot of presentation or anything like that. It's a great opportunity to have some fun. We're trying to get more realtors out there because we've lost that socialization of realtors
COVID did that.
a little bit. Yes, try to get some of that back. But I've talked to some people who are like, I've always wanted to go to Pro Renata and check it out. This is a great reason if you're not if you live in Crozet, you've probably been many times. But if not, it's worth the trip because
awesome.
I started following. Rod would tell me about concerts after the fact, and I'd be like, I didn't even know about that. So now I follow them on Eventbrite since I buy tickets there, and you get an email that tells you all these acts they have booked over the next few weeks, and it's remarkable. It's remarkable, the entertainment that's coming.
It's a great lineup.
They've even had like ABBA, right?
We do. We have them coming back next month.
It's
as well.
crazy the
Mamma Mia.
diversity of entertainment that happens at Pro Renata, for sure.
Yeah, so it's just a great place. Tonight, again, there's a Rush tribute band, and I'll get up and introduce the band, give a little plug to some future stuff, and our September 4th
time you
event
go
as
on the
well.
stage?
And just want to encourage and
This
put it out
weekend?
there.
Okay.
Realtors, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, get them. They are going fast, but there's still plenty right now.
So 187 of 350 left, and we do fully, based on the conversations we're having, I think they're all sell out. People are just a little slow to pull the trigger.
How many days we got left here? Do the math, like 19?
Well, September 4th. It's a
What
couple
do
of
you
weeks.
guys have, like 1,200 realtors in car?
Affiliates and
1,100,
members, it's over 1,000 for
Yeah,
sure.
over affiliate, probably from
you guys need a
realtor
third-
standpoint, it's a good 800, 850, I think.
We're not going to go down this.
Don't go
debate.
there. This-
Yeah. We won't.
Look, again, it's not for realtors
Right,
only.
right, right.
We should be able to sell all the tickets to
Definitely
realtors,
sell, yeah.
but we already have people in the community that want to come out.
course.
It's interesting how many people are interested in the affordable housing conversation that don't know how to engage in it. So this could be your chance
That's a
to come.
great idea.
So it's roughly, if just the ticket sales, it's roughly $18,000. Just to put it in perspective, that will help almost every one of the sales we've got at Victorian Heights on closing.
Without donations, I can tell you there are several people who are paying $500 for 4 tickets. Right? They want to make a donation and they want to come.
And it's a tax write-off.
Yes.
All of the above.
Yes, and thank you for a couple, just real quick, Pete Koken in my office. Thank you, Pete. Pete put in $1,000. He's only getting 6 tickets, but he just wants to be part of this. Christian Street Cummings, one of our VIP sponsors, she put in $2,000 for her team. Loring Woodruff just bought 10 tickets. I've got feelers out to Sasha Farmer, Denise Ramey, and just, all the realtors that I deal with on a weekly basis. But please, get your tickets, even if you can't come, please donate to this great cause.
So, gentlemen, as the chair of the Piedmont Community Land Trust, thank you. Thank you, and thank you again. And it was a lot of fun to talk real estate. I love talking real
Oh,
estate
so
with
fun.
you
You
guys.
guys are great. This
It
is
was
a
a lot of
fun panel.
That went by fast.
The cameras and microphones are always available to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Judah Wickower behind the camera, Real Talk with Keith Smith, archive wherever you get your podcasting and
Thanks,
social media
Judah.
content. Judah's the best. Also
Thanks, Jerry.
archived on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Thank you for joining us on the show. The I Love CVille show, guys, is up at 12:30. So,
Thank you.
nicely done, boys.
He'll let us know when the mic. He'll let us know when.